Chapter 1672. Ling Yu and the others didn't know that they were being watched while they were out. However, Li Zongjie was aware of it. After all, Li Zongjie was now the leader of the Qin gang. After he took over, Li Zongjie needed to protect himself the most. Therefore, if anything happened, it would be convenient for him to protect himself. Therefore, Li Zongjie had arranged for some people to follow him secretly in the city. The main thing was that he needed to know if there were other people following him secretly. This little bit of insurance still needed to be taken. Soon, some people discovered Pei Feng's movements. They passed the news to Li Zongjie. Li Zongjie himself wasn't in a hurry. With his current strength, even if someone really wanted to deal with him, it wouldn't be an easy task. Li Zongjie could easily deal with the other party. However, he was not in a hurry now. Li Zongjie wanted to see what these people were up to first. Ever since he had taken control of the Qin gang, basically all the members of the gang had become Li Zongjie's informants. He had a panoramic view of everything. News from all directions quickly gathered in Li Zongjie's hands. Therefore, Li Zongjie could clearly grasp the movements around him. Since Pei Feng wanted to deal with Li Zongjie decided to investigate Pei Feng's background first. At the same time, Li Zongjie made arrangements to eliminate Pei Feng at any time and create some opportunities to kill Pei Feng. Ling Yu and Ling Shui brought Li Zongjie to a place with beautiful scenery. There was a waterfall that hung directly on the mountain peak. It kept falling. There was a small wooden house by the river. It was very secluded and quiet. Staying in such a place was considered a peaceful environment. Li Zongjie liked this kind of place. Previously, when we were living in seclusion here, most of the runes were completed here. I carved a plundering rune under this waterfall. After reaching a certain level of cultivation, there would be a period of time where they would choose to live in seclusion. However, as time passed, they would return to the city due to various reasons, and it would be difficult for them to leave. It was normal for him to go back and forth. Li Zongjie saw that there were indeed traces of a formation at the bottom of the river. He was very smart to hide the formation under the river, so that it wouldn't suffer any accidental damage. When no one was watching over it, it would be able to preserve the formation more completely. Otherwise, who knows what kind of situation would occur in the outside world. It was a very common thing to destroy an array that had already been drawn. In that case, let's begin. On the way here, in order to save time, Ling Yu had already explained how to carry out the rune, because Li Zongjie seemed to be very busy. Li Zongjie really couldn't understand. What was he thinking about all day long when he was with two beauties? Why was he in such a hurry? Where was he going? Li Zongjie didn't know how to cherish the moment he was given. In that case, she chose to do things according to the rules. The power of the serpent demon was too strong. Therefore, at least the three of them needed to work together to absorb the power of the plundering rune and maintain the stability of their own strength. Li Zongjie handed the bottle that contained the serpent demon to Ling Yu. Ling Yu first made some carvings on the bottle and directly connected the bottle with the plundering rune. In this way, she could plunder the power of the bottle. Then, she directly threw the bottle into the water. At the same time, Li Zongjie and the other two also sank into the water. Before entering the water, Li Zongjie also arranged for Li Zongjie to hide on the shore and pay attention to the situation outside. If there were any problems, he could inform Li Zongjie in time. As a defensive measure, he couldn't pin his hopes on the two women in front of him. Although the two women had some skills, they were still very inexperienced in the underworld. It seemed that the two of them must have a very strong backing and a very strong background. Otherwise, the two of them would have been caught and locked up. Since he knew that the two of them were not to be trifled with, Li Zongjie had to be more cautious when dealing with them. According to the positions that were previously assigned, the plundering rune would transform the energy. In addition, there were also special absorption points. Li Zongjie was the first one. He would be able to absorb the most energy. The rest of the people also had a second absorption point. Ling Yu and Ling Shui also occupied the second and third spots. Ling Yu was the one who activated the array. Li Zongjie had studied arrays before, so he could tell that Ling Yu wasn't lying to Yicheng. The plundering array was activated. Above the calm river, a terrifying energy rapidly surged out. But soon the surface of the river calmed down, and all the power was restrained. Lingyu did not want anyone to know what she was doing. If some wandering demon beasts or primitive beasts noticed her, and purposely came here to wreak havoc, it would have a great impact on them. If the array formation was destroyed, it would cause a real energy storm. Within the array, the bottle also cracked slightly. At the same time, the power of the serpent demon had been fixed by the power of the array. At the same time, it was continuously transferring its own power into the array. Boom! When the first wave of energy appeared, Li Zongjio could feel the flood-like energy rushing towards him. Heaven Void God Form Record. Refine it. Li Zongjio started to absorb the terrifying energy crazily, transforming it into his own Yuan power. Although Li Zongjio had just broken through, how could he let go of such a rare opportunity to obtain energy so easily? This would definitely allow Li Zongjio's power to increase again. The energy came too quickly. Ling Shui and Ling Yu exchanged glances with each other at the bottom of the water. After which, they began to circulate their strength and gradually refined the energy in their bodies. They refined and absorbed the energy that was surging towards them. Aotion was wandering outside the river. 2 days later, Aotion saw a few figures in the distance. They seemed to be riding on clouds, and he was shocked. Oh no, Master was right. Chapter 1673. Aotion hid in the distance, and saw 3 figures flying over from the sky. Moreover, judging from the aura of these 3 people, they were extremely powerful. All of them had the strength of celestial realm. Aotion did not dare to reveal himself, even though he had completely evolved to the strength of heavenly dragon realm. However, if Aotion were to fight against 3 of them alone, it would definitely be a dead end. Most importantly, facing these people, with Aotion's strength, he did not have much of a chance of winning. It was better not to send himself to death. He could feel such a terrifying aura from afar. Aotion also quickly contacted Li Zongjio through his own connection. This was to tell Li Zongjio that there were enemies coming. However, Li Zongjio was also at a critical point in his cultivation at the moment, and did not respond to Aotion. Aotion could only hide for the time being. Facing these 3 experts who suddenly appeared in front of him, the only thing Aotion could do was to hide. If he were to be discovered, he would only have his tendons pulled out and his skin peeled off. The people who rushed over from afar were Pei Feng and the others. Pei Feng had specially called 2 of his best friends from outside his own sect to help him. The strength of these 2 people was naturally needless to say. They were 3rd-stage celestial realm experts. In the celestial realm, they were also very powerful existences. Although their levels were not very high, the means of these 2 people were also quite powerful. Usually, if Pei Feng had someone he could not deal with, he would find these 2 people. Boundless Ghostly Hand, Songming Blade. 2 celestial realm experts, under the strong combination, could form a powerful combat power. It was definitely not something that a single celestial realm expert could withstand. I only want that kid's life. It's best to capture him alive. As for the other 2 girls, they are my junior sisters. I will deal with them. Pei Feng said. I heard that this kid has just become the commander of Red Soul City. Boundless said worriedly. There was a trace of hesitation between his eyebrows. It was not that he was afraid of the latter's strength, but it would be very troublesome if he were to take action. To be able to become a commander, he more or less had some relationship with the city lord. His main concern was that if the city lord came to settle old scores, this matter would be troublesome. If things didn't go well, the city lord might issue an order to hunt them down and put them on the wanted list. That would be a big deal. This was also a problem that needed to be considered. Don't worry, this kid is not related to the city lord at all. I've already investigated him. He was only given the position of commander because of his contributions during the previous siege of the city by the fiendish demons. He's not an official member. Pei Feng said. What did he do? The Azure Sea Saber stopped. He still had to get to the bottom of this matter and figure out what exactly was going on. The position of commander was extremely rare. Even if he spent 1,000,000 soul beans, he might not be able to buy such a position. Therefore, They were very curious about what kind of contribution Li Zongjio had made. The two of them were not from the Crimson Soul City. However, they were also very clear about how terrifying the strength of these city lords was. If a city lord really wanted to kill you, you wouldn't be able to escape. If this Li Zongjio had done a great favor to a city lord, and they came and killed Li Zongjio, then it would be perfect. Everything would be too late. It would be too late for regrets. After living in this world for so long, they still had to understand this. Caution was the parent of safety. If they weren't careful, they could capsize at any time. Although they were all ruthless people, they were also the type that could take their lives. If they weren't careful, they would lose their lives. Hundreds of years of cultivation would be destroyed in an instant. No one wanted to see such a situation happen. It's just killing a demon. When did the two of you become so cowardly? If you don't dare to do it, I'll just find someone else. I know quite a few Sky Realm experts. Pei Feng said indifferently. At the same time, they looked at the two people in front of them with disdain. Although they had called the two of them to do it, Pei Feng also knew that they had to rely on themselves to do it. Two celestial realm powerhouses, plus a formation master. Such a combat combination, no matter where it was, would be a very powerful existence. Therefore, it was easy for Pei Feng to call the other two people over. As an array master, he still had the ability to rally people. Nowadays, who didn't need to set up arrays in their residence? If they didn't, they wouldn't feel safe. Therefore, array masters were also very popular. Many ancient explorations also required the participation of array masters. A trace of hesitation appeared in the eyes of the two people. Before they made their move, they already had a very bad premonition. At their level, premonition was also very important, although it was very likely that they were just overthinking things. As long as a premonition appeared, it was worth being vigilant. However, the 200,000 soul beans in that kid's hands can only be given to others for free. Pei Feng said with a sigh. The two people were suddenly shocked. 200,000 soul beans. You're telling the truth? Of course it's true. Pei Feng said. A trace of craftiness appeared in his eyes. Indeed, these people truly valued wealth as much as their lives. They didn't care about other things, and would even have many misgivings. However, when it came to soul beans, these fugitives would do anything. Since this person dares to go against young Master Pei, he is going against my Songming blade. No matter what his identity is, I will definitely cut him in half. That's right. I ghostly hands boundless, will definitely break his tendons and bones. Twist him into a fried dough twist. When Pei Feng saw this, he laughed coldly in his heart. However, on the surface he naturally agreed. If it weren't for the soul beans, would these people be so proactive? Don't think that these experts were all very rich. In reality, the stronger a person was, the poorer they were. One had to know that cultivation consumed a lot of soul beans. It consumed a lot of resources. If they wanted to increase one level, according to the calculation of soul beans, they would need at least 1,000,000 soul beans if they wanted to increase their strength by another level. Therefore, the path of strength increase was relatively difficult. 200,000 soul beans were placed in front of them. How could they let this opportunity slip away? Chapter 1674. Just as Songming blade and boundless ghostly hands were starting to imagine how they were going to split the 200,000 soul beans, suddenly, a thundercloud also condensed in the sky. Heavenly human tribulation lightning. Someone is breaking through nearby. The two of them immediately identified the thundercloud. Someone must be breaking through nearby, which was why there was such a huge commotion. Immediately, they locked onto a place. It was the bottom of the waterfall. Indeed, in the next second, a figure rushed up from under the waterfall. It was Li Zongjio. When Ao Tian, who was in the distance, saw Li Zongjio appear at this moment, he immediately cursed inwardly. Why did he appear at this moment? Moreover, he wanted to break through at such a critical moment. Although these enemies would not dare to come close during a breakthrough, there would be a period of weakness after a breakthrough. Pei Feng's gaze instantly locked onto this figure. He locked onto Li Zongjio. They saw Li Zongjio's figure land on the cliff. It was like he was completely oblivious to his surroundings, as if he did not see them. He was fully immersed in his cultivation. Even Li Zhongjie did not expect to break through so quickly after reaching the heavenly human realm. This was mainly because of the overbearing power of the plunder formation. Because of the plunder formation, Li Zhongjie was able to refine and absorb the power of the giant snake demon. 80% of the energy was taken by Li Zhongjie. When the Heavenly Void Divine Record was activated, it was like a huge mouth that could never be full, desperately sucking in the energy. Li Zhongjie was also very surprised. After all, when he cultivated the Heavenly Void Divine Record, it did not have such an effect. How could there be such an overbearing and unyielding scene in this great world? Li Zhongjie also saw Pei Feng and the others through his probing. Don't be anxious. This brat is probably dead for sure. After passing through the tribulation, he will definitely be in a weakened state. I never imagined that it would actually be such a heaven-sent opportunity. As long as we take advantage of his weakened state to bind him, we will be able to easily make him hand over the soul beans. If the other party didn't take the initiative to hand over the soul beans, then it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to obtain anything. It would truly be a life and death struggle. This wasn't good news for the two Songming blades. Although he had already received some benefits from Pei Feng, if there were more benefits, why not? Naturally, he would not reject such a good thing. Very good. I didn't expect you to break through so quickly. What a pity. Pei Feng was starting to feel sorry for Li Zhongjie. However, at this moment, Pei Feng also sensed that there were two figures below the waterfall. Weren't they Ling Shui and Ling Yu? What? Seeing this, Pei Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was playing with Ling Shui and Ling Yu. On the surface, it looked like he was cultivating. However, who knew what he was doing before he started cultivating? Perhaps he was even planning to do something after he started cultivating. It was indescribable and unforgivable. Pei Feng's murderous aura instantly became extremely terrifying. At this moment he couldn't help but want to rush up. Brother, calm down. If you rush into the range of the tribulation clouds, you will also be affected. Songming Blade saw that Pei Feng was actually so angry because of two women. He lost his composure and almost lost his life. He sighed. What a fool. With strength, what kind of women couldn't he have? Why did he have to be so conflicted about one or two? Did he really think that he was an innocent young man? Moreover, many times things were ruined by one or two women. He was already in the sky realm, yet he still couldn't get rid of such matters. It was truly regrettable. Hearing this, Pei Feng finally calmed down. At this moment, Li Zhongjie was welcoming his own tribulation. Although the ancient golden body art could no longer reach such a level, Li Zhongjie had already grasped the basic method of tempering his body. The chaotic body also allowed Li Zhongjie to feel his own strength. When the tribulation lightning struck, Li Zhongjie didn't even use any extra yuan qi. Instead, he used his body to resist it. Although it was very risky, it was nothing to Li Zhongjie. He had experienced greater risks in the past. 19 lightning bolts struck down continuously. Li Zhongjie's body was charred black. He didn't seem to have any aura, as if he had been struck into pieces by the lightning. Not everyone would have such a tribulation lightning when they broke through. Only some heaven-defying cultivation methods, or those with extremely powerful physiques and strength, could attract this kind of lightning tribulation. When the time comes, I must ask this kid for all his cultivation techniques. Boundless ghostly hands said with desire in his eyes. Finally, the tribulation lightning dispersed. Guys, let's do it, Pei Feng said. At this moment, there was no need to wait. He didn't even need to rush to set up the formation. As long as the two of them attacked, they could easily kill Li Zhongjie. It wasn't difficult at all. Finally, Aotian couldn't take it anymore. With a loud roar, he transformed into his real body. When Aotian appeared, he really did give them a fright. This was because they really did not sense that such a powerful poison dragon was actually hiding nearby. Poisonous dragon Aotian. After he appeared, he released a terrifying aura. Aotian didn't know if he could survive if he rushed out, but at least he could buy some time for his master. After all, his life was given by Li Zhongjie. Interesting, there's a small dragon. I'm lacking a belt made of dragon tendons. Boundless ghostly hands said. Aotion's heart was naturally filled with anxiety, facing two terrifying third-grade celestial realm existences. What else was there to talk about? Don't force yourself if you can't. Just when Aotion was feeling a little guilty, but he was still determined to stay here, a familiar voice sounded again. It was Li Zongjie. Aotion's eyes lit up. He wanted to hold on until Li Zongjie woke up. Even if he had to self-destruct, he wanted to drive away the enemy in front of him and hold on for a while, so that Li Zongjie could adjust, and it would be best if he could find a chance to escape. He would come back for revenge in the future. The future was long. However, he didn't expect Li Zongjie to wake up so soon. The two opposite also saw Li Zongjie's figure waking up. There's no aura. Could he have become immortal? Let's cripple him first. Li Zongjie looked at the two in front of him, but his eyes swept past them and looked at Pei Feng, who was behind. So it's you, the coward. I noticed you long ago. If you're so capable, why don't you fight yourself? Coward. Chapter 1675. Zhao Kaishan had chased away the Fan family members in front of him. However, he did not know that the Fan family members were here to deal with the Bright Moon sect. Just now, that guy took the initiative to attack Zhao Kaishan. Therefore, Zhao Kaishan took his life. After all, when that guy attacked, he did not think about keeping Zhao Kaishan alive. As a return of courtesy, Zhao Kaishan took action and easily ended the latter's life. If these people had any objections, they would have raised it on the spot. However, Zhao Kaishan saw that these people did not seem to have any objections. Then, Zhao Kaishan continued to lead Zhao Chuang out. In fact, they had already hidden in a place far away to meet. However, Zhao Kaishan's speed was too fast. He had already cleared out an area of nearly 20 miles. That was why he found these people. The people of the mysterious Heart Heavenly sect also thought that the place they chose was very hidden, but they were still found by Zhao Kaishan. However, Zhao Kaishan did not seem to recognize them at all. A very good opportunity to confront each other passed by. Or rather, it was because Fan Long was afraid that he did not make a move. After Zhao Kaishan left, Fan Long and the others also stopped in a dilapidated house 25 miles away. This was a pavilion. There were often people who built pavilions in different places. Whether it was raining or blowing, it was a very good place to shelter from the wind and rain. Sometimes, one could also enjoy the scenery in the pavilion. Drink afternoon tea. Originally, Fan Long wanted to bring the people of Chuanyan Hall to have fun. But now that one of them had died, how could he be in the mood to have fun? It must be something extremely dangerous. It was better to deal with the troublesome Zhao Kaishan first. This was the first time Fan Long had encountered a situation where he was so uncertain. This was because Fan Long could not find any flaws in Zhao Kaishan at all. In addition, Zhao Kaishan's reputation made Fan Long even more afraid. He did not even flare up when one of his people was killed. Hall Master Fan, what do you think about this matter? Wang Xian could not help but ask. The person was clearly in front of you, but you did not make a move. What were you doing? Were you here for a vacation? Are you teaching me how to do things? Are you teaching the Fan family how to do things? Fan Long immediately glared at Wang Xian. For the time being, I don't have the ability to deal with Zhao Kaishan. But if I want to deal with you, there won't be many difficulties or obstacles. I can easily crush you to death. There was no resistance. Suddenly, the experts of the Cloud Traversal Hall looked over. Their eyes were filled with malicious intent. Now that the Fan family had suffered a loss, they dared to hit them while they were down. They were simply unscrupulous. Such a person naturally had to be beaten to death on the spot. We wouldn't dare. If you have any instructions, please feel free to ask. Wang Xian immediately said. At the same time, he led his people out of the pavilion, not daring to stay close to these people from the Fan family. At this moment, Wang Xian was regretting it. He never thought that the people from the Fan family would be so rude and overbearing. Their profound Heart Celestial sect had invited trouble onto themselves. Wang Xian didn't even know what the Fan family would do next. Fan Long pondered for a moment. For safety's sake, it was better to send a message back and gather more experts. Otherwise, he would still be worried. Gather the experts of the Fan family first to ensure absolute safety. Everything else could be dealt with later. After all, this Zhao Kaishan was indeed unfathomable. Send a message back. Level 1 reinforcements. Originally, their operation this time was already a level 2 operation. Now it was directly upgraded to a level 1. This was a very serious situation. Otherwise, this situation wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have used such a method to continue gathering the experts of the Fan family. However, Fan Long was the deputy hall master. Since he said so, there must be a reason for it. Therefore, his subordinates sent a message back. I've already sent a message back. My Fan family will gather more experts. Once they arrive, we will attack the Bright Moon sect. We will take back the mine. How long will that take? Wang Xian couldn't help but ask. He didn't know how long this back and forth would take. Didn't he know that time was the most important thing? They were already in such a tense situation. Could it be that they had to continue waiting? The other party had already started preparing and surveying the mine map. What? You want to teach me how to do things? Why don't your mysterious heart celestial sect go ahead and kill them? Fan Long said angrily. No. Hall Master Fan, please calm down. It's just that the Bright Moon sect has already started surveying the mine map. If the mine map is completed, we will be completely in a passive position, Wang Xian said. Speaking of the mine map, Fan Long fell silent. After all, the Fan family had suffered a loss because of the mine map before. It was because a small part of the mine map had entered the territory of the Chao family. Hence, the Chao family made a big fuss about it. In the end, they used despicable means to seize the mine. However, during this period of time, the Fan family had also recovered from other places. Were they going to suffer a loss because of the mine map again? They will need at least 3 days to survey the mine map. There's still time. During this time, you will be in charge of scouting, Fan Long said. At the same time, he instructed his subordinates and the people of the mysterious heart celestial sect to assist in the investigation. Otherwise, they would not know what to do during this period of time. Wang Xian did not expect these people to be so cowardly when they came. To think that they would continue to wait for help. Why don't you just bring the entire Fan family over? Yes. We will go and prepare the manpower right away. Wang Xian said quickly. It was easy to invite the devil in, but difficult to send him away. Wang Xian finally understood this saying. Just as Wang Xian and the others were about to set off, another figure appeared outside the gazebo with a little beast. Why are you guys still here? Are you courting death? Zhao Kaishan had cleared the area within a radius of 5 miles. Now he saw that there were still so many people gathered in the pavilion. When he looked down, he realized that they were the people who were on the mountain earlier. Why were they still here? Could it be that they were plotting something? When Fan Long and the others saw Zhao Kaishan, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Could it be that Zhao Kaishan had come to his senses and specially came to hunt them down? Everyone's gaze turned to Fan Long. Whether or not they would fight and bury Zhao Kaishan now was up to Fan Long. If Fan Long wanted to make a move, he would take advantage of this opportunity. Let's have a cup of tea here. After that we will leave. Fan Long calmed down and said in a deep voice. Chapter 1676. Li Zongjiu directly provoked Pei Feng, but Pei Feng did not fall for it. He was a formation master and was not good at fighting head-on, but given enough time, he would be able to set up a formation. On the other hand, he could set up a formation to easily trap you and then slowly kill you. Offending a formation master was a very terrifying thing. Back then, Li Zongjiu relied on a set of burning soul pillar formation treasures to become invincible. It gave him a lot of convenience, allowing Li Zongjiu to kill a lot of people. Later it was destroyed, and there was no other way. After all, the strength of the enemy was too strong, and there was always a limit. Formation master, Li Zongjiu smiled disdainfully. However, he was already thinking about killing the person in front of him. Then, he would see if there were any treasures in this guy's hands. Perhaps there might be some high-level secret array books. Now Li Zongjiu's formation cultivation had stagnated. It was because he did not have any more high-level formations to study. If Li Zongjiu wanted to study and comprehend on his own, it would take a long time. His foundation in array formation was already there, so he could learn it very quickly. Cut the crap. Cripple him first. Boundless ghostly hands said. Facing a person who had just passed the stage 2 celestial tribulation, he did not have much fear. Was the stage 3 celestial realm just for show? Did he really think that he could improve his strength so easily? If he did not have some real ability, he would not have been able to live to this level. Boundless ghostly hands took the initiative to attack. Suddenly, tens of thousands of black handprints appeared in the sky. These handprints seemed illusory, but they also seemed to be real. They surrounded Li Zongjio and attacked one after another, landing on Li Zongjio. A fierce light flashed in Aotion's eyes. This attack was too strong. Even with his own defense, he could barely block it. It was not enough to block this move. Maybe he would meet the King of Hell under this palm. As for Li Zongjio, Aotion did not know if Li Zongjio could block it. Facing the palm prince falling from the sky, Li Zongjio also activated his spiritual power. The Heaven Void Divine Form record was running wildly in his body. Heaven Void Fist. Not only did Li Zongjio have a breakthrough, but he also directly comprehended this move from the Heaven Void Divine Form record. However, Li Zongjio was not sure how strong his move was, so he tried to use it. After all, just by relying on his own defensive power, he would be able to withstand the attack before him. At least try to test the move, just to see how strong it was. As Li Zongjio performed, Boundless Ghostly Hands' ghost palm. At this moment, they were also crazily crumbling. Li Zongjio's fist easily shattered Boundless Ghostly Hands' myriad of palm techniques. Broke at the touch. Boundless Ghostly Hands' eyes were also very clear that this move had completely suppressed his own move. Sea Tyrant Blade Cut. A faint dark sky chi, mixed with the other party's horrifying saber chi, suddenly chopped at Li Zongjio. It seemed to pass through the Milky Way, and finally landed on Li Zongjio's head. Li Zongjio's body was completely covered. Facing this blade, it was even easier. He used his fists to easily shatter the attack. Li Zongjio blocked the opponent's blade chi with one hand. How is this possible? The two of them saw that Li Zongjio was actually able to block their attacks so easily. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The latter had just broken through to the second stage of the celestial realm. How could he have such strong power? What kind of cultivation method did the latter cultivate to have such strong power? It was really shocking. You've all made your moves. Now it's my turn. Li Zongjio said calmly. He was the evil lord. It was fine if he didn't provoke you, but you actually dared to provoke him. As the evil lord, how could he let you go? No matter what your nickname was, where you came from, or who was protecting you, he would still kill you. He would not let you live an easy life. In the next moment, a sharp sword appeared in Li Zongjio's hand. Unparalleled sword. At the same time, a green ghost sword appeared beside him. He attacked with both swords. The green ghost sword was formed by the Spirit Division Unpredictable Hoop. Immediately, a terrifying power shot towards the Tsongming blade. Boom! A domineering power surged out. The Sea Tyrant blade was stunned. Why did he attack me first? However, since the attack was already coming, he could only face it head-on. Aotion did the same. With a loud boom, he unleashed a terrifying poison array. Then the power of the poison array spread out and covered the surroundings. After all, Li Zongjio had a body that was immune to all poisons. It could be said that there was no threat at all. The poison gas could not affect Li Zongjio. Moreover, Aotion could control the poison gas to a certain extent. He deliberately avoided Li Zongjio and rushed toward the rest of the people, accurately covering their situation. At the very least, it could affect them to a certain extent. In a short time, these people were not afraid of the poison gas. However, they had to take Li Zongjio's attack seriously. After all, when Li Zongjio attacked, it could be said that his power was very strong. It was so fierce that it gave people the feeling that he was not an ordinary stage 2 celestial being. He exchanged over 100 blows with the Sea Tyrant blade. However, Li Zongjio suddenly sped up and found an opening in one of the moves. At the same time, he cut off the Sea Tyrant blade's hand. Moreover, it was the hand that was holding the blade. The Sea Tyrant blade immediately felt a buzzing sound in his head. Li Zongjiu kicked the sea tyrant blade's body. At the same time, the green ghost sword whizzed out. It accurately pierced the sea tyrant blade's back and nailed him to the ground. Puffed! The sea tyrant blade spat out a mouthful of blood. No matter what, he could not pull out the green ghost sword from his back. Seeing this, Boundless Ghostly Hand did not hesitate to unleash all of the martial arts that he had learned in his life. The ghostly hand seals that filled the sky merged into one palm. It slammed towards Li Zongjiu. Heaven! Divine Fist! Li Zongjiu punched out. Boundless Ghostly Hand's move was easily broken. At the same time, Boundless Ghostly Hand's hands seemed to have felt a terrifying crushing force, which directly broke his hands. Bang! Boundless Ghostly Hand's hands exploded. Is that all you can do? Li Zongjiu said calmly. The strength of these people was not enough for Li Zongjiu. Boundless Ghostly Hands wanted to say something. But in the next moment, Li Zongjiu also summoned a terrifying heavenly thunder force and blasted it accurately on Boundless Ghostly Hand's body. Boom! Boundless Ghostly Hand's entire body was charred black by the explosion. He then laid on the ground unconscious. At this moment, Li Zongjiu turned to look at Pei Feng. I've given you so much time. Have you finished setting up your formation? Chapter 1677. In the battle just now, Li Zongjiu had only tried a little. At the same time, he knew that Pei Feng was nervously setting up the formation. Li Zongjiu did not know what level Pei Feng's formation had reached. However, at this moment, Li Zongjiu still had some confidence in his own strength. Since you want to die, I'll let you display all your skills before you die slowly. Li Zongjiu was very generous. I'll give you a chance. However, at this moment, Pei Feng was fully prepared. The formation in his hands had been completed. Although these two pieces of trash did not buy him much time, his own strength was strong enough. He finally finished setting up the formation. You're very confident, Pei Feng said calmly. Looking at the person in front of him, he already had the feeling of trampling Li Zongjiu under his feet. If you don't start the formation, I'll make my move. As Li Zongjiu spoke, he waved the unparalleled sword in his hand. A force of ice and fire instantly swept towards Pei Feng. In his opinion, the person in front of him was too weak to stand up to the wind. If not for his curiosity about Pei Feng's formation cultivation, and the fact that he had just broken through, he would have wanted to test his own strength. Otherwise, he would not have given Pei Feng a chance. Of course, even now, Li Zongjiu would not let Pei Feng live. Seeing Li Zongjiu make his move, Pei Feng immediately sneered. Suddenly there was a boom. It seemed that a force had drilled up from the ground and shattered Li Zongjiu's sword chi. Since you can't wait, I'll send you to heaven, Pei Feng shouted angrily. Suddenly, a terrifying force blasted towards the sky, around the underground. It was as if many things were continuously crawling out from the ground. Ghost formation. A hint of madness flashed across Pei Feng's eyes. This kind of array formation was very incompatible with his temperament, so he rarely used this kind of array formation. However, this kind of array formation was very useful. It was powerful, but it was easy to use. Often, it could produce a very obvious effect when killing or trapping an enemy. It can't be. Is that all you've got? Li Zongjiu's face revealed an extremely disappointed expression. Li Zongjiu had thought that this young array master would have some kind of formidable ability, which was why he was so popular in the Scarlet Soul capital city. But now, it seemed that the latter's standard had indeed disappointed Li Zongjiu. Aotion had already hidden to the side. These Yin Ghost Chi seemed very powerful and mighty, as if it could easily trap and kill many people. However, in reality, this thing was completely useless in front of a true expert. For example, in front of Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had seen too many similar things. Also, didn't this guy know that these moves of his were all used to restrain these evil Yin Ghost Chi? You're about to die, and you still dare to talk nonsense. Let's see how you can laugh later. Pei Feng waved his hand. Some of the evil ghost power within the area of 100 miles in circumference also drilled out of the ground. After they appeared, they all gathered their strength and rushed in the direction of Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Boom! The lightning covered the Yin ghosts in front of him. The power of thunder and fire that accompanied it easily burned all of it away. At this moment, Pei Feng's array formation was also greatly weakened. In just an instant, Pei Feng's array formation had already weakened to the extreme. Li Zongjie waved his hand. The green ghost sword appeared in front of him. At this moment, Pei Feng's face was in a state of extreme shock. Suddenly a loud boom was heard. The green ghost sword was so fast that it directly tore through the space. In an instant, it appeared in front of Pei Feng. Before Pei Feng could react, this terrifying force had already continuously blasted into his body. Boom! 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 A defensive shield appeared and protected Pei Feng. This was the latter's amulet. Because Li Zongjie's attack was so fast that this move was enough to end Pei Feng's life, this amulet appeared on its own. Before Pei Feng could react, it had already protected him. At this moment, Pei Feng was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. If it weren't for the amulet in his hand, he would have been killed by this sword. The point was that Li Zongjie actually dared to kill him. You dared to kill me? Pei Feng looked at Li Zongjie in front of him in disbelief. Fortunately, he had the amulet. And the power of this amulet was enough to protect Pei Feng from death for a period of time. Li Zongjie could tell that this amulet was of good quality. Immediately, he withdrew the green ghost sword. Your tortoise shell is not bad. Li Zongjie mocked. Very well, I'll remember you. I'll return today's humiliation tenfold in the future. Pei Feng remembered the words of the elders in his sect. Once this amulet was triggered, it meant that Pei Feng had died once. Therefore, no matter what the situation was, he had to escape immediately. His opponent had the ability and the determination to kill him. Otherwise, the amulet would not be triggered. If he continued to act tough at this moment, no one would be able to save him. With the power of this amulet, it would not be difficult for him to escape as far as possible. After Pei Feng finished speaking, he turned around and leaped out. Trying to leave? That's too easy for you. Li Zongjie sneered. If he could come and go as he pleased, where would he put the face of the great evil lord? Did the evil lord Li Zongjie not care about his face? Li Zongjie immediately chased after him. The purple heaven thunderbolt and the sword chi of the unparalleled sword vibrated. They bombarded the amulet indiscriminately. Although this amulet was powerful, its power was limited. As long as the energy within the amulet was completely exhausted, the amulet would definitely be scrapped. Obviously, the person who made Pei Feng's amulet was very powerful. Li Zongjie guessed that he was at least a 7th grade celestial being. It could hold on for so long. Last time, Li Zongjie was able to take down the serpent demon because he took a great risk. Pei Feng was sweating profusely at this moment because Li Zongjie was chasing him relentlessly. The power of the amulet in his hand was almost exhausted. Li Zongjie, do you know who I am? My father is Elder Fa Zheng of the Immortal Spirit Valley. If you kill me, the entire Immortal Spirit Valley will not let you off. Following Pei Feng's furious roar, Li Zongjie once again summoned a bolt of lightning. With a loud bang, it shattered Pei Feng's protective talisman. Chapter 1678. Li Zongjie destroyed his opponent's amulet. Pei Feng's face instantly turned ugly. This was because Li Zongjie was relentless in his pursuit. Moreover, Li Zongjie really had the power to destroy the amulet, which put him in danger. At this moment, there was nothing for Pei Feng to hide. He was completely exposed to Li Zongjie. He couldn't defeat him, and he couldn't escape. His only way out was in Li Zongjie's hands. Your father is an elder of the Immortal Spirit Valley? Is there such a relationship between the Immortal Spirit Valley and the Sky Spirit Valley? Li Zongjie asked. There was a mission to join the Sky Spirit Valley. No wonder it sounded familiar. One of the 3 great immortal valleys. If you kill me, the entire Immortal Spirit Valley won't let you go. The Immortal Spirit Valley won't allow their disciples to die outside. Once they find out, they will investigate to the end. I can give Lingyu to you. How about it? Let's forget about it. The 2 people just now don't have a deep relationship with me. Their lives have nothing to do with me. The latter seemed to have calmed down gradually and found a way to negotiate with Li Zongjie. He wanted to appease Li Zongjie and save his life first. Li Zongjie could guarantee with his life that the first thing this kid would do when he returned to the Immortal Spirit Valley was to ask his father, the Elder, to kill him. He would even mobilize all the forces in the Immortal Spirit Valley to kill Li Zongjie, but there was no hurry to expose him. Are you serious? You're really willing to give Lingyu to me and let bygones be bygones? Li Zongjie didn't have any interest in Lingyu, but this little one seemed to like her very much. Moreover, this little one also believed that Li Zongjie was interested in Lingyu, which was why he was so close to her. That's right. Let bygones be bygones. From now on, I won't interfere with your matters. I Pei Feng swear to the heavens. Pei Feng hurriedly said. He didn't expect Li Zongjie to be so easily fooled. Pei Feng was very glad to meet such an enemy. It seemed that the latter was indeed afraid of the Immortal Spirit Valley's reputation and power. After all, not many people dared to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. Even the Red Soul City Master didn't dare to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. Although the City Lord of Crimson Soul City was almost invincible in his city, there was no one who could defeat him. He still didn't dare to be enemies with the Immortal Spirit Valley. He didn't dare to offend them. Otherwise, the experts of the Immortal Spirit Valley would have ways to kill the Crimson Soul City Lord. To Pei Feng, as long as he could survive, anything was fine. Li Zongjie's battle prowess was simply too terrifying. How did this guy have such a powerful battle? When the time comes, if I want to go far away, won't I need a lot of traveling expenses? Thought Li Zongjie. His meaning was obvious. Pei Feng understood immediately. At the same time, he laughed coldly in his heart. You still want to extort money at a time like this? Since you want it so much, I'll just give it to you. I'll let you eat until you're full. When he returned, he would use all his power to kill Li Zongjie. Otherwise, what else could he do? He had to kill him. Otherwise, it would be hard to swallow. Travel expenses? I only have 120,000 soul beans. It's enough for your journey. Take these soul beans and be on your way. Once he killed Li Zongjie, he would have a way to get these things back. There was no rush. No. Give me your storage ring, and I'll let you go. How do I know how many soul beans you have in there? Are you trying to trick me? You know how powerful the Immortal Spirit Valley Elder is. I might have to hide for hundreds or thousands of years, right? Li Zongjie tried his best to persuade him. Don't worry. As long as you give me your storage ring and promise to let bygones be bygones, I won't touch a single strand of your hair. Li Zongjie said with sincerity, although he knew that people were greedy. However, Pei Feng was quite surprised that Li Zongjie was so greedy. Li Zongjie actually wanted to take away all of his storage rings. There were so many treasures in there that Pei Feng couldn't bear to part with. If you don't even have this much sincerity, how can I believe that you'll let bygones be bygones? Li Zongjie's face suddenly turned cold. He snorted coldly. It was as if he was about to see through Pei Feng's scheme. Pei Feng's heart skipped a beat. Pei Feng thought that it wasn't easy for him to appease Li Zongjie. If it was ruined because of such a small matter, wouldn't that be extremely unlucky? Therefore, he had to appease Li Zongjie first. Okay. To show my sincerity, this is my storage ring. Pei Feng took off his storage ring and threw it to Li Zongjie. Li Zongjie caught the item and scanned it with his mental power. He counted the items in the storage ring. The most eye-catching item was soul beans. There were actually 120,000 of them. This guy was really rich. He was mainly a formation master. Usually formation masters earned money faster. After all, they were experts in this field. Setting up a formation would cost at least 5 to 10,000 soul beans. As long as a formation master was willing to help, there would be business. However, most people were more aloof and unwilling to help. They would even have to spend a lot of money. Therefore, it was reasonable to be able to get so many soul beans. Very good. Now you can go on your way with peace of mind. After Li Zongjie received the storage ring, he immediately raised his hand. A bolt of divine lightning descended from the sky. Under Pei Feng's astonished gaze, it struck towards Pei Feng. You didn't keep your word. Only then did Pei Feng realize that Li Zongjie was just toying with him. However, by the time he realized it, it was already too late. Even if his intestines turned green with regret, it was useless. Boom! A bolt of lightning swallowed Pei Feng. What a joke! Do I look like a trustworthy person? Of course. A strand of Pei Feng's hair floated in the air. Look at this strand of hair. I didn't touch it. I said I wouldn't touch a strand of your hair, so I definitely won't touch it. As for Pei Feng himself, he turned into a soul bean. Li Zhongjiu kept it. Then Li Zhongjiu flew over. After a while he flew back. After thinking about it, he still felt that it wasn't safe. In the end he burned the strand of hair as well. If this guy's elders really found some kind of trace from his hair, wouldn't it be asking for trouble for Li Zhongjiu? After dealing with this strand of hair, Li Zhongjiu arrived at the waterfall. Chapter 1679. When they returned to the waterfall, Aotian was keeping watch over the arrogant, boundless, ghostly hands and the Tsangming blade. They were in a very sorry state at the moment. The two of them were lying on the ground. Boundless, ghostly hands was fine as he was only unconscious. However, the Tsangming blade was nailed to the ground by the green ghost sword. He couldn't move. Moreover, his powerful strength prevented him from dying for the time being. The repeated pain caused the Tsangming blade to feel unbearable pain. The intense pain was simply unbearable. In his current state, he would rather Li Zhongjiu come forward and strike his head with his sword, ending his life completely. Li Zhongjiu immediately understood the pain the person in front of him was in, because he was the one who arranged it. How about it? Hand over your storage ring, and I'll give you a quick death. Li Zhongjiu said calmly. It sounded very benevolent. Being able to give him a quick death was enough for them to feel a great favor. They even had to be deeply grateful to Li Zhongjiu. The Tsangming blade opened his eyes and tried his best to look at Li Zhongjiu. At the same time, he tried his best to nod. Li Zhongjiu waved his hand and retrieved the green ghost sword. Only then did the Tsangming blade heave a sigh of relief. The strength in his body was gradually recovering. I'm willing to submit to you. Master, please let me live. The Tsangming blade said with all his might after he recovered some strength. He looked at Li Zhongjiu with eyes full of sincerity. Oh, you Sky Realm cultivators cherish your lives so much? Li Zhongjiu was very surprised as he looked at the Tsangming blade in front of him. Although the latter's hand had been cut off by him, it was very easy to reattach it with the strength of a Sky Realm cultivator. There wasn't much of a problem. The most important thing now was to escape from Li Zhongjiu's hands. In other words, it was to preserve their lives. Only by doing so could they survive and have a better future. If they died here, they would have nothing left. Master, please spare my life. The Azure Sea Saber had recovered quite a bit of its strength. Originally, the Blue Sea Blade had wanted to rely on its own strength to give it a try. However, they knew in their hearts that if they really rushed forward, there would be no turning back. There would no longer be any chance to save their lives. It was difficult to survive. In front of Li Zhongjiu's powerful strength, any strategy would be futile. At the same time, Li Zhongjiu was chasing after Pei Feng. Pei Feng had returned in such a short time. Needless to say, Pei Feng must have been killed by Li Zhongjiu. For someone who even dared to touch Pei Feng, why would he care about the others? Li Zhongjiu thought for a moment. All right, although your strength isn't that great, it's enough to deal with ordinary fellows. Li Zhongjiu nodded and said. The Azure Sea Blade also obediently released its soul. Li Zhongjiu had ruthlessly carved a mark on it. From then on, the Tsangming blade's every move was under Li Zhongjiu's control. If he wanted to take someone's life, he didn't need to do anything else. Just a thought was enough to easily reap that person's life. Obviously, after reaching the Sky Realm, ordinary people would cherish their lives more and wouldn't waste it casually. They would cherish the chance to live very much. Go and heal yourself. Keep the storage ring for yourself. I've suffered a great loss. Li Zhongjiu waved his hand and said. He asked the latter to leave first, and looked at the other boundless ghost hand at the same time. He had subdued the Azure Sea Blade. However, he didn't know if the boundless ghost hand in front of him was willing to submit. Immediately Li Zhongjiu woke the latter up. When the boundless ghost hand woke up, he was also in a state of extreme shock. He seemed to still be immersed in the fear and terror from before. Boundless Ghost Hand immediately came to his senses. Boundless Ghostly Hand also seemed to have an enemy who had fainted during the fight. That was why he appeared here. Boundless Ghostly Hand also woke up. At the same time, he looked at Li Zongjio in front of him vigilantly. "You're sleeping quite soundly." Li Zongjio smiled faintly. After about 15 minutes, under Li Zongjio's coercion, the warrior in front of him finally handed over his soul. Although he was very strong in the beginning, after Li Zongjio cut off his limbs, he became much more obedient and stopped running. After that, he more or less admitted his mistake. He was directly forgiven by the generous Li Zongjio. "Look, why did you have to reattach your limbs?" Li Zongjio was also speechless by Boundless Ghost Hand's behavior. But Boundless Ghost Hand did not dare to say anything. The two of them recovered together for a while. Although they saved their lives, they lost their freedom from then on. When the two of them felt that they had reached the end of their lives, they would die at that time. As for now, they were absolutely unwilling to die. After the two of them recovered from their injuries, Li Zongjio directly asked them to wait for him in the Crimson Soul City. He directly added the two of them to the Qing gang. Suddenly, there were two more Sky Realm experts in the Qing gang. Their strength naturally increased greatly. If they wanted to deal with the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, it would be much easier. After all, there was such an opportunity. So Li Zongjio did not give up and kept the two of them. The two sisters, Ling Shui and Ling Yu, did not seem to know what was happening outside. They did not even know that one of their suitors was killed by Li Zongjio. It was good that they did not know. If they knew, there would be more trouble. Li Zongjio also cultivated on the spot, increasing his strength and stabilizing his realm. At the same time, he could also protect the two girls. Finally, 3 days later, a lightning tribulation appeared in the sky. Who was it between the two of them? Li Zongjio lowered his head to take a look. He saw a beautiful figure from the bottom of the pool, breaking the water surface with a whoosh and landing on the ground. After taking a look at Li Zongjio, she did not say much, but directly sat down facing the lightning tribulation in the sky. It was Ling Yu's sister Ling Shui. It seemed that Ling Shui's dark force cultivation was stronger than Ling Yu's. She looked young, but in fact, Ling Shui's strength had also reached the sky realm. The lightning tribulation in the sky, after gathering its strength, suddenly fell towards Ling Shui. Ling Shui used her own origin power to resist. Obviously, the lightning tribulation was very powerful for the latter. Third stage sky realm. Ling Shui's strength was about to break through the third stage sky realm. At the same time, the lightning tribulation was unprecedentedly strong. Chapter 1680. Several bolts of lightning struck down continuously. Ling Shui could clearly feel the pressure as well. She released many treasures in succession. The moment these treasures came into contact with the lightning, they all collapsed and shattered instantly. Hence, at this very moment, Ling Shui was at her wit's end. However, when she raised her head, she saw that the clouds in the sky did not seem to disperse. Ling Shui could only resist the following lightning tribulation with her origin power. Although Ling Shui had just broken through, she fully displayed her strength as a level 3 celestial being. At this moment, the power of frost that was condensed finally resisted the terrifying power of the lightning tribulation. Boom! When the two forces collided, it instantly produced a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering sound. However, Li Zongjio could clearly see that Ling Shui's condition was already very bad. Previously, it did not matter if some of her treasures were damaged. At most, she would suffer a little impact. Hence, she could basically resist it. But now he was truly going against the heavenly lightning. Very few ordinary people could have a strong body like Li Zongjio's. They could easily resist the attack of the lightning tribulation that fell from the sky. Hence, this lightning tribulation was nothing to Li Zongjio. However, to ordinary cultivators, the lightning tribulation was simply an existence that could take one's life. Anyone who saw the lightning tribulation would feel a sense of despair. Ling Shui was not surprised. Originally, Ling Shui did not expect that there would be such an opportunity to condense her own origin power and achieve a breakthrough in one fell swoop. This was something that Ling Shui did not expect. Otherwise, Ling Shui would not have come in such a hurry. Moreover, She did not make sufficient preparations for the breakthrough. This made Ling Xue very regretful. If she had known this would happen, she would have brought some things with her. She prepared in advance. However, the preparation for the breakthrough last time could be said to have hollowed out her entire person. Therefore, Ling Xue hadn't even recovered from the loss of her wallet yet. She needed to completely prepare her own strength. Moreover, she also needed a certain amount of time to continue the lightning tribulation. This time, to Ling Xue, it was indeed a little too fast and too early. When the lightning struck earlier, Ling Xue had not recovered much. Suddenly, she vomited another mouthful of blood. Now another bolt of lightning came crashing down. Boom! That terrifying power of lightning instantly covered Ling Xue. Bang! This time, Ling Xue's essence energy was scattered. If this continued, Ling Xue's soul would be destroyed by another bolt of lightning. Li Zongjio could already see the fear in Ling Xue's eyes. She probably wouldn't be able to get past this. Ling Xue casually tossed her storage ring in the direction of Li Zongjio. Take good care of my sister. Ling Xue looked at Li Zongjio. She didn't know if Li Zongjio was reliable or not. Although from her previous understanding, Li Zongjio was a very reliable person. However, they had no other choice now. She could only choose to believe in Li Zongjio. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to send these things to her sister. Li Zongjio took the storage ring. Immediately, a ray of light flashed across his eyes. He felt a little calm in his heart. However, he shook his head helplessly. Why did I have to be involved in this matter? If Ling Xue hadn't tossed the storage ring to Li Zongjio and had continued to hold on by herself, Li Zongjio wouldn't have done anything to her. If she wasn't strong enough, she might end up crippling herself. Who could be blamed for this? However, now that she had given the storage ring to Li Zongjio, it was equivalent to letting Li Zongjio take advantage of her. She had received the latter's favor. Ling Xue closed her eyes. She no longer had the strength to block the next bolt of lightning. Therefore, she could only concentrate the last bit of strength on her body to protect herself. She wouldn't be killed so miserably in an instant. Boom! Lightning surged. The sky within a radius of 10,000 miles flashed with extremely terrifying lightning and fell directly toward Ling Xue. It even gave Ling Xue a feeling that this wasn't the last one. How could her thunder tribulation be so powerful? Or for Ling Xue, the time she took to break through to the third level of the celestial realm was too short, so it led to such a thing happening. It was originally a good thing, but it became a bad thing. The separation from her sister came too suddenly. She didn't even have a word to say. They had been sisters for hundreds of years. Even if she didn't say anything, she believed that her sister could understand her feelings. However, the pain she imagined didn't come. Could it be that she was turned into ashes in an instant? Ling Xue thought in her heart. However, the sound of thunder and lightning kept coming from the surroundings, also made her very awake. She wasn't dead yet. She was still alive. The moment Ling Xue opened her eyes, she immediately saw the scene in front of her. Then, they saw a figure standing against the extremely terrifying lightning. He used his body to block the divine lightning released by the all heavens. He forcibly took it. Seeing this, Ling Xue actually felt extremely absent-minded. When she saw Li Zongjio, Ling Xue didn't know what to think in her heart. Just looking at him, she felt that the person in front of her gave her a very great sense of security. It seemed that he had resisted the disaster of her entire world. He had lifted all the pressure on her. She had this kind of feeling. So, she was extremely touched in her heart. This kind of feeling? Why did he do this? Ling Xue didn't understand. This was simply an act of suicide. You take care of your sister. I don't have time. Li Zongjio resisted the lightning in the sky and returned the storage ring in his hand to the latter. At the same time, he turned around and glared at the sky in front of him. It's just a thunder tribulation. Although your strength is strong, it's still a little weak if you want to imitate the heavenly tribulation. Li Zongjio said coldly. At this moment in the great world they were in, it was the evolution of the power mastered by a mighty figure. It could be said that every blade of grass and every tree here was the energy of this great emperor. So he was everywhere. But there was no trace of him. In Li Zongjio's view, The power of the heavenly tribulation was naturally the evolution of this great emperor's own power. He didn't take it seriously. Resisting the thunder tribulation for others would at least increase the power by more than 10 times. So this was basically an act of suicide. Immediately, Li Zhongjie also clearly felt that the other party's power had increased. Chapter 1681. No matter how strong it was only an illusion. Li Zhongjie had experienced countless lightning tribulations, so when he saw the lightning, he could feel the powerful will within it. It was the will of the Xiantian emperor. He wanted to use his own will to transform the lightning tribulations. Li Zhongjie was not afraid at all. At this moment he activated the chaotic body. A thunderbolt that was 10 times stronger than the previous one struck down, as if it was going to tear Li Zhongjie into pieces. The terrifying power instantly poured into Li Zhongjie's body. Even with the chaotic body, Li Zhongjie felt extremely pressured. In an instant, he even felt like his body was about to explode. The meridians in his body seemed to be about to explode. Roar! Suddenly, in the intense pain, Li Zhongjie seemed to realize that the power did not come from the will of the emperor. Could it be that the heavens were targeting Li Zhongjie? Below, when Ling Shui saw Li Zhongjie, she could not help but feel an intense pain. Such peak strength had already exceeded the limits of what Li Zhongjie's body could endure. It should be known that helping others to overcome the tribulations was a great taboo in the cultivation world. Under such circumstances, it was very likely that both of them would be destroyed. However, if Li Zhongjie had not intervened, Ling Shui would have died. Her soul would be destroyed, and her cultivation would vanish. But now, because of Li Zhongjie's intervention, her life was saved. This move has already surpassed the strength of a level 6 celestial being. Ling Shui's eyes were filled with worry. It was very likely that Li Zhongjie would be completely obliterated by this thunderbolt. Li Zhongjie was actually willing to sacrifice himself for her. Ling Shui was extremely touched. Although there were many men in Ling Shui's life who said that they were willing to give up everything for her, in reality, once a dangerous situation occurred, they would not even be seen. Even now, it could be said that Ling Shui was not very familiar with Li Zhongjie. In fact, they had not even spoken much to each other. However, Li Zhongjie was still willing to do it. Ling Shui did not know how to describe how moved she was by such a person and such an action. Li Zhongjie was about to be torn apart. Ling Shui was ready to follow Li Zhongjie. But in the next moment Ling Shui saw something. Li Zhongjie's body, which was gradually shattering, was actually gradually recovering at this moment. He was breaking and recovering. At the same time, he continued to refine that power. He turned it into his own power to repair his body. In this process his power gradually became equal. The speed of destruction and rebirth was equal. And at the same time, it was happening to Li Zhongjie's body. Such a mysterious scene made Ling Shui look on in awe. But at the same time, Ling Shui could also feel how much pain this situation would bring to Li Zhongjie's body. She did not dare to imagine. The body that had just been reborn was once again shattered by the lightning. The body that had just been shattered was once again reformed under his own power. This process repeated for more than 30 times. Li Zhongjie's body finally calmed down. At this moment, Li Zhongjie was reborn. It was not enough to describe it. The heavenly virtual divine form actually has such a mysterious effect. This was also the first time Li Zhongjie realized it. It turned out that the so-called heavenly void divine form was a formless and formless state. Only through continuous destruction and rebirth could one condense a true divine body. At least, this was what Li Zhongjie had comprehended so far. Li Zhongjie was also very surprised. If it were not for this crisis, Li Zhongjie would not have been able to comprehend the essence of the heavenly virtual divine form. This time, it was a blessing in disguise. After this destruction and rebirth, Li Zhongjie's own power had increased a lot again. Although his cultivation of origin energy remained the same, Li Zhongjie could still feel it. His power had increased a lot again. This made Li Zhongjie extremely amazed. It seemed that the word limit was actually an infinite range. What was the limit of the body? No one knew. There was always a higher mountain. Now Li Zhongjie could even beat up the previous two, with just the strength of his body. Even if he stood still and let them attack him at will, he could still remain unscathed. In such a short time, he had made such a big breakthrough again. This made Li Zongjio very surprised. Oh my god, what kind of monster is he? Ling Shui saw the change in Li Zongjio. Immediately, her eyes widened, and her beautiful eyes were full of disbelief. She did not expect Li Zongjio to really make it through. Such a terrifying power. And such a strong and terrifying recovery power, which saved Li Zongjio's life. No one had ever been able to withstand the thunder tribulation for others unscathed. As for Li Zongjio, it seemed that he wasn't just helping others withstand the lightning tribulation and being safe and sound. In fact, he was actually benefiting from it. No one would have expected such a good thing to happen. But in fact, if it were someone else, it would be quite a tragedy. At least Ling Shui's life was saved again, although he could clearly feel it. The constantly surging thunderbolts seemed to have become more powerful and angry, but the power after that could not bring much harm to Li Zongjio. He had absorbed all the power of the thunder tribulation. Only Li Zongjio had such power. The thunder tribulation clouds finally dispersed reluctantly. Li Zongjio seemed to have recovered to his peak state, and he landed in front of Ling Shui easily. It seems that the power of this fake heavenly tribulation is just SOSO, Li Zongjio said indifferently. Of course, he was qualified to say such words, because he had survived the destructive thunder tribulation. Although it was a little difficult in the beginning, it was very easy in the end. Fake heavenly tribulation? What do you mean? Ling Shui looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. Isn't everything in this macro world transformed by the power of the Xintian Emperor? Li Zongjio said. How is that possible? Although the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord is extremely powerful, it's impossible for him to create a heavenly tribulation. Even this great world wasn't completely created by the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord. It's just that the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord modified it based on a certain foundation. Ling Shui and Ling Yu's background was not simple, so they more or less knew something that Li Zongjio did not know. Is that so? Chapter 1682. Li Zongjio was a little surprised, but he did not show it. Ling Shui was extremely weak. If it were not for Li Zongjio's help, she would have been killed by the thunder tribulation. But now the thunder tribulation was over. She only needed to recuperate a little and recover her strength. Then she would be able to enter the level 3 celestial being realm as she wished. Although he did not know how long Ling Shui had cultivated to reach her current level, at least judging from her bone structure, Ling Shui's cultivation speed must be very fast. Her talent was also quite strong. I didn't expect that I, the evil lord, would have to protect these girls. Li Zongjio could not help but shake his head. Of course, Li Zongjio also gained a lot from the thunder tribulation just now. Li Zongjio had just broken through to the level 2 celestial being realm. However, under the tribulation earlier, his chaotic body had become even more powerful. The level 2 celestial being realm had been completely stabilized. Otherwise, it would take at least a few months just to stabilize the celestial being realm. This was also why one could not come out of seclusion immediately after the cultivation breakthrough. If something happened accidentally, it was very likely that the level 2 celestial being realm would fall immediately. Li Zongjio was very lucky that his level 2 celestial being realm did not fall under the thunder tribulation just now. Unexpectedly, he took the opportunity to stabilize his level. This time, the two of them did not know that Pei Feng was killed. Ling Shui and Ling Yu also broke through smoothly. Ling Shui's strength finally stabilized. After this, Ling Shui also had a sense of trust for Li Zongjio. Even after thinking about it, she felt a little unbelievable that Li Zongjio was in such a situation. Bearing the heavenly tribulation 10 times stronger, he stepped forward bravely to resist the power of the heavenly tribulation for her. It seems that sister has a good eye. Thinking of this, Ling Shui could not help but feel a little disappointed. She did not think much of Li Zongjio at first. After all, in her eyes, the requirements were very high. Li Zongjio's strength was not enough to enter her eyes. As for his sister, it was entirely because of Li Zongjio's cultivation and formations that she was interested in him. Who would have thought that Li Zongjio was actually such a wolf in sheep's clothing? Her thunder tribulation, the power of that wave of thunder tribulation just now, could easily destroy the existence of the sixth stage celestial realm. However, Li Zongjie was able to block her attack, even though his cultivation was weaker than hers. It was obvious that Li Zongjie's strength was far above hers. Not to mention anything else, even the giant snake in his hand, which was a 9th-class celestial being, was caught by Li Zongjie. Naturally, he would not dare to underestimate Li Zongjie in the future. 3 days later, Ling Shui and Ling Yu woke up one after another. The two sisters appeared under the waterfall. She was like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Li Zongjie opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. With his current strength, it was enough to kill the incarnation of the Lord of Heaven. However, he could not go back now. He knew that there were so many experts in this world. Li Zongjie could either find a way to break through to an extremely terrifying level in 5 years. Even if he did not need to be in the macro world, he could still cultivate as usual. Otherwise, he would have to find a way to return to the macro world and continue to improve his strength. Otherwise, sooner or later other enemies would come. This time, there was still a chance. Li Zongjie had 5 years to prepare. However, there might not be such a chance next time. Li Zongjie's peak in his previous life was only the peak of the supremacy realm. Now he had easily broken through. If he wanted to kill his previous self, it could be said that it would be easy. Moreover, Li Zongjie saw a terrifying existence of the ape clan in the sacred martial realm. Even with Li Zongjie's current strength, he did not necessarily have enough strength to fight against the latter. That ape clan expert must be in the Lord of Heaven realm, Li Zongjie thought to himself. At least, before he went back, his strength had to be in the Lord of Heaven realm. At the same time, in order to prevent the seal from breaking in advance, Li Zongjie also had to be prepared to go back in advance. He had to return in 4.5 years at most. He did not want to find that the other party had broken the seal in advance when he returned. Then, the entire holy martial continent would be burned to the ground. If he saw such a scene, Li Zongjie did not have the ability to go back and do it again. Therefore, he had to prepare for a rainy day. He had to improve his strength as soon as possible. Are you all ready? It's not good to stay here for long. Let's go back quickly, Li Zongjie said. Ling Shui and Ling Yu nodded. Thank you, young Master Li, for protecting us. Li Zongjie waved his hand. On the way, Ling Shui was also hesitating whether to tell them about Li Zongjie blocking the heavenly thunder for her. However, she was afraid that her sister would misunderstand. So she simply thought that if Li Zongjie did not mention this matter, she would bury it in her heart. She only treated Li Zongjie as a good brother. If there was a chance in the future, she would directly return this favor to Li Zongjie. Whoosh! Whoosh! The three of them rushed in the direction of the Crimson Soul City. Halfway through, when they came to a forest, they suddenly saw a 7-colored light in the sky. The light seemed to have torn a hole in the sky, and from that hole, a door of light shone into the forest in front of them. When the three of them saw this scene, Li Zongjie frowned at first. After all, in this great world, strange phenomena were frequent, and he could not tell what kind of danger was coming. However, looking at the expressions of the two girls, they were very surprised. It's the rainbow sky illusion. Ling Yu's eyes were filled with surprise, and so was Ling Shui, who was very excited. What? Li Zongjie had not been here for long, so he was not clear about many rules of the great world. Now that he heard this name, it was quite unfamiliar. The rainbow sky illusion, there are countless adventures in it, and the challenges in it are not too life-threatening. For the great world, it's equivalent to a good opportunity to obtain rewards, and there might even be secret incantations in it. Secret incantations? What Li Zongjie needed the most now should be the secret incantations. After all, the Heaven Void God record was enough to allow Li Zongjie to cultivate to a higher level. However, this secret incantations could allow Li Zongjie to still have an advantage in front of high-level experts. Quick, the rainbow sky illusion will not appear for long. I didn't expect to have such a good opportunity to encounter it. The two girls hurriedly called Li Zongjie to go. Basically, as long as one entered the rainbow sky illusion, they would be able to obtain a lot of benefits. which was equivalent to a place to obtain benefits. However, such a treasure land could only be encountered by chance. It was rumored that the Crimson Soul City Lord had once entered the Rainbow Sky Illusion, which was why he had an undefeated record. Chapter 1683. The appearance of the Rainbow Sky Illusion. Immediately, the experts who were training or living in seclusion, within a radius of 1,000 miles, appeared one after another. At the same time, there were also many newcomers who had just arrived who could not help but rush towards the Rainbow Sky Illusion. If some newcomers accidentally entered the Rainbow Sky fantasy realm, they would directly obtain a great opportunity. But this kind of thing to him was both good and bad. After all, if one did not have enough strength to grasp a good thing, they would eventually draw fire to themselves. Crimson Soul City. City Lord Crimson Soul naturally saw the appearance of the one Rainbow Sky Illusion. It's the Rainbow Sky Illusion again, a great opportunity. City Lord Crimson Soul was already too late to set off. Furthermore, as the City Lord, he had to protect the city. Otherwise, if anything unexpected happened to the city, he, as the City Lord, would be guilty. Since he had become the City Lord and enjoyed some convenience and treatment, he naturally had to shoulder the responsibility. However, Crimson Soul had controlled the main city for so long, and the accumulation of strength had long reached a terrifying level. However, he was still unable to step into the Heavenly Lord realm. This made Crimson Soul want to increase his strength even more. It was extremely difficult to step into the Heavenly Lord realm, and when you controlled a main city, the success rate would increase a little. At least compared to before, it would not be so uncertain. Seeing the Rainbow Sky Illusion unfold, there were also many figures in the main city who were rushing towards the Rainbow Sky Illusion at an extremely fast speed. But most people could not make it in time. After all, such a paradise would not wait for anyone. In just a dozen breaths of time, the light had already dimmed. Li Zhongjie and Ling Yu were the first to enter the Rainbow Sky Illusion through the door. Poison Dragon Aotian also hurriedly followed. Of course, Aotian would not let go of such a good opportunity. After asking for Li Zhongjie's permission, he hurriedly followed. However, Li Zhongjie did not wait for him, but let him fly himself. After all, Aotian had already stepped into the heaven realm. His speed was naturally not slow. The two girls knew about Li Zhongjie's poison dragon. Previously, when they were in the Crimson Soul City, it had more or less appeared. Being able to own a celestial realm mount was in fact very eye-catching. Ling Shui found Li Zhongjie more and more amazing. If he remembered correctly, Li Zhongjie had just broken through to the celestial being realm not long ago. However, he had long possessed this poison dragon. This meant that Li Zhongjie had already subdued Aotian when he was still in the Khanate realm. How miraculous was this? On Aotian's back, Li Zhongjie and the other two were flying in the air. At this moment, they appeared on a spiritual island. The blue seawater in the distance rippled. Everyone knew that since it was an island, treasures and the like would definitely be on the island, and would not appear in the seawater. There are indeed many auras of treasures on the spiritual island below. Moreover, the spiritual energy on the spiritual island is so dense. Li Zhongjie was also surprised. If one were to say that the spiritual qi of the sacred martial realm was 100 times denser than that of the sacred martial continent, then the spiritual qi of the sacred martial realm was 100 times denser. The spiritual energy in the great world was 100 times denser than in the sacred martial world. The spiritual energy on the spiritual island in the Rainbow Sky Fantasy Land was 100 times denser than in the great world. It was 10,000 times denser than in the sacred martial world. Even if one used a spirit gathering array to continuously accumulate the spiritual energy, it might not have such an effect. They did not even need to meditate and cultivate. They only needed to open their mouths and breathe. They would absorb the spiritual energy into their bodies and automatically convert it into origin energy. Let's go where the spiritual energy is the densest. Ling Yu pointed in a direction. As soon as they arrived at such a place, there were strong spiritual energy surging everywhere. All kinds of treasures appeared in piles. It was indeed not easy to find the densest spiritual energy among so many of them. Ling Yu calmed down and analyzed and captured the spiritual energy. Swoosh. Without another word, Aotion charged towards the place with the densest spiritual energy. However, on the other side, 3 figures were also chasing in the same direction. Speed up. Li Zhongjiu said plainly as he looked at the 3 people opposite him. How could Li Zhongjiu be snatched away from him? Without another word, he charged towards those people. I've taken a liking to this item. Get lost. Li Zhongjiu shouted as he circulated his origin energy. The other party could feel Li Zhongjiu's strength. However, they thought that they might be able to contend with him and stand a chance. Such a treasure was definitely in existence that could change one's fate. How could they let it go so easily? Ling Shui looked at Li Zhongjiu. The latter was gentle and refined. She did not expect him to have such a domineering side. He would ask people to get lost when he took a liking to something. It was rare to see such a character like the latter. However, the 3 people opposite him seemed to want to take a risk and fight for it. The 2 of you, hold on for at most 10 breaths of time. After I take the item away, I'll split it with you. Wealth comes from danger. Let's do it. The 2 of them were ruthless people. They decided to take a risk and try to stop Li Zhongjiu. That way, they would be able to obtain more opportunities. Although Li Zhongjiu looked very fierce. However, under the temptation of such a treasure, not everyone could remain calm and think. Once one fell into a demon's trap, they would be stubborn. Li Zhongjiu saw through the other party's actions and sneered, courting death. In the next moment, Li Zhongjiu flew out from Aotion's body. Boom! A small black hammer appeared in his hand. The hammer immediately burst out with terrifying chaotic lightning power. The combination of lightning and chaotic power. A move blasted towards the 2 of them. Although the 2 of them were in the celestial realm, under Li Zhongjiu's chaotic lightning, their bodies were instantly swallowed by the light. Boom! Boom! The 2 of them were swallowed by the lightning. They originally wanted to block for 10 breaths of time. However, they did not expect that they could not even hold on for half a second. Damn it! The only person alive wanted to fight for the treasure. He was about to reach the treasure. But Li Zhongjiu was too strong. If he continued to fight for the treasure, he would definitely be caught by Li Zhongjiu. Finally, the latter gritted his teeth and turned in another direction. It was more important to stay alive. Since he was already here, why should he make things difficult for this god of death? He thought that if he turned around and left, Li Zhongjiu would let him go. However, he did not expect that Li Zhongjiu would catch up with him and smash the latter's body with the power of lightning. Since they had already planned to snatch Li Zhongjiu's things, they should be prepared to be smashed into pieces by Li Zhongjiu. The powerful lightning instantly reaped the lives of the 3 celestial realm powerhouses. Ling Shui and Ling Yu looked at each other. There was only one thought in their minds. This man was too overbearing. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.